hope that one would think if you have, the last time you saw them, you were terminal, you came in at stage 4, you exited terminal, you come back with no cancer. I would have hoped that someone there would have said, what in the HE double hockey sticks did you do?
Right.
No one even asked.
Dr. Shetlin here with you today. This is for our natural health and healing series, not the whiplash group. So pardon my backdrop, but it's just the one I've got behind me today. And I'm here with Marcus, who is a cancer conqueror. He was able to overcome cancer with natural means after being taken to the brink of death with the medical model and chemotherapy. So we're in for a powerful interview to help people today not only understand what the system is out there that really promotes disease versus health and healing, what natural and successful means are out there, and how we can afford to do these things outside of our insurance model. Those are the hot buttons we're going to talk about. Marcus Ellis, you've had experiences where you had this great business doing catering and all these things, but you've gone through this experience where you developed cancer. Let's just talk about that. You're saying some of the stressful factors that may have led to your cancer. What was the prerequisite?
If you want to, I'm sorry, Doc, if you want to hear the ideas, I've been through this for a reason. I literally know that there are so many people out there struggling, and they don't know that emotions and, the things that you're going through, the stress level that we're going through is massive production of, cancer. It's a big assist. We've got so many parts of our bodies. We're made in the image of our Father, and we're being made in this image means we literally are one unit. We're one piece. And so I love talking to people about their total body health, everything about them. I found out through my horrible journey that literally all systems, the entire body is a system together. And when all diseases are looked at critically, they all have inflammation as a conjoining thing, but they also have this whole thing. Is the one thing I can say is this is systemic. It's a system-wide malfunction, and it's not to do with the location of a tumor. This is very hard for American people to grasp, because the medical association is in such a state of whiplash that all they do is go after a tumor location, and the tumor location is not the problem. So I say this to people a lot of times, and people, just resonate with it. And the fact is that cancer is a side effect of systemic malfunction, and it's system-wide. It's a cellular level. And so what we're doing is, in my world, I literally look at the system-wide situation, that the cellular terrain is so critical to me. So if you asked me a question, how this happened, basically, I've just been under stress for 50 years. And, very, very bad domestic matters and all kinds of things in my personal life. But to be frank with you, the pressure of providing for my father's family for the last 50 years, and then my own family and all of the family matters and the business things and all this has just led to a lot of massive amount of pressure. Sure. And so, all I can say is that I'm very much a realist. I'm not a guy that's going to, say, oh yeah, I stubbed my toe and now I've got cancer. No, this is the diagnostic tools of our friends in the, what they call conventional medicine, which actually is a falsehood anyway. Yes. And I'll tell you more about definitions if you want to talk about all that stuff. But our friends over there, they literally have diagnostic tools. You've had cancer for 8 to 12 years before they can even diagnose it.
Yeah.
Their diagnostic tools, surprise, surprise, mostly cause cancer or add to your cancer. Yeah. For instance, PET scans, positive emission tomography, they're literally putting radioactive glucose. And, I could talk to your audience all day about what it is that causes cancer, but one of the biggest things is sugar. It's the number one thing in our bodies, and it's all over in these products in the grocery store. And I'll cover that later if you want, but literally they feed you in oncology glucose. Right. And your cancer goes ballistic because they fed it a fabulous meal and then they irradiate you to see what they did. So they're actually exacerbating your cancer by giving you a diagnostic. And I was like, why would you use diagnostic tools that, exacerbate the problem?
It's so important that the listeners catch this, because we're talking about allopathic medicine or Western medicine versus natural means is how we'll be going through this tonight or today. And I just need them to understand that Western medicine is very mechanistic. Oh, we need to find something that we can isolate so we can either cut it out or irradiate it or whatever, rather than treating us systemically. And I love how you already started with that. I mean, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And if we don't look at ourselves, mind, body, spirit, balanced in when we're dealing with health and or disease, because all disease starts from inside out. All health comes from inside out, not outside in. But that's the problem, is the mechanistic thing is, what can we go in and cut out? What can we inject into you, or pill can we give you from the outside in to try to heal you? And it's just not how we work.
Dr. J, it's very important for your listeners to understand that the entire approach of the current conventional medical model is absolutely diametrically opposed to health care. It's not health and it's not care. It's a terrible thing that's going on. I literally know that I was not, when I say the word cure or the word heal, those are 4-letter swear words to the people in oncology. They'll never, when I speak at conferences, which you and I shared one this last weekend, I was literally in 2 of them, literally, they don't want me to say the word cure or the word heal. And they will never say them either, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be cured. I wanted to be healed. But the words that they use, the jargon even that they use, is deceptive, because they won't use those words, but they will use the word treatments. You will get treatments. We will do treatments, and we're doing the best we can. I was at a meeting not too long ago. It was a self-help group of people that had cancer. And I was invited to it. And I actually was about one of 20 people. These are people that are all undergoing cancer issues. And the speaker was a beautifully dressed oncology doctor from the local hospital that had, it'd been my torture chamber. And literally, she spoke beautifully, eloquently, 5-syllable drug models and all the drug formularies and all the drug testings and all these things that they were doing. And people were popping up their hands saying, how can I get in your next trials? And she was very, very beautiful in her conversation. But I was I'm very wired to speak truth. And so I said at one point to her, I said, the word side effects that you just admitted, every single drug in America has side effects. You said that. So people, you have to know there are always going to be side effects. I've called them collateral damage. Because they're not side effects. They're direct effects, but they won't take responsibility for doing them. So they obliquely call them side effects. In the military, we call it collateral damage. You go and hit this target, and then you hit this and this and this and damage and damage and damage. So it's multiple problems. So I said to her, what your group gave me was multiple collateral damages. Of course, I lost all my hair. This is actually why I grow a beard, Jay, because I can. I had no hair. And this is getting to be quite a shock, but they gave you they gave me all kinds of other things, like bone loss and gum loss in my teeth. I had to have dental surgery. They gave me chemo brain. That means you have fog in your brain. You can't quite remember where you put something, or you don't know this person. You can't remember things. They destroyed my immune system. If you can imagine the most incredibly upsetting thing that they would do, the one thing you need to have to heal is your immune system, and they attack your immune system. And then they also, gave me a heart attack. So I was in a cardiac unit for one night. It was $17,000 for one night. I literally have arthritis in my hips, neuropathy in my feet, and there's more things I'm not even going to tell you about. The pulmonary embolisms were, blood clots on my lungs. I just tell you, it's just one thing after another after another. And I said to her, you gave me so much collateral damage. It's impossible to believe that you're, not listening to this and watching this happen every day. 1,600 people today, Jay, while we're talking, are going to die from cancer in America. 1,600 people. That's not little. If you're doing all these treatments and you realize that people are dying all around you, and that you're a nurse, or you're an oncology nurse, or you're an oncology doctor, you realize that you have a 2.3% success rate with chemo, you would scratch your head at some point and go, what's wrong with this picture? And I said to this doctor, beautiful doctor, I said to her, when you're taking the hand and stroking the hand of these patients and they're lying on the bed, just, vegetative. I said, when you talk to them, you always say, we're doing the best we can for you. And I said, that's what you're doing. You're stroking their hands. I said, I suppose that you love your clients, right? Playing on her sympathy. She said, well, yes, I do. And I said, good. I'd have you consider to put the accent on another word, to say, we're doing the best we can for you. Someone in the room that's listening that doesn't have chemo brain will go, oh, there are other options. And this is what I want your audience to know, is that in the, as you look at the poet laureate of the United States, Robert Frost, he wrote the poem, it was called The Road Less Traveled.
Yes.
And that's what everyone needs to be on, to be frank with you, because the American mass media, all of these players, the media, the FDA, which is supposed to be our watchdog, the CDC, the NIAID, all the pharma, the American Medical Association, all of these groups are in what I call the pink ribbon propaganda mirage. And basically what that is just this beautiful palm trees around the, little lake there. And they're saying there's nothing else you can do. You need to just go right to what's called conventional. And, it's a mirage. You see people, they put that little pink ribbon on their license plates or on their back of their cars. And they say, oh, what that means is you, Jay, have to run for the cure. I have to kayak for the cure. You have to hope for the cure. Some other person has to pray for the cure. The fact of the matter is they need to pray for wisdom, because the cures are already here, Jay. This is nothing new. We've had cures that have been 1,000 years to 2,000 years. These things that are in nature. If you read the scriptures, and I don't know if your audience is I'm presuming that they once in a while open the scriptures, but literally it's from Genesis to Revelation, and also in those esoteric books that have been hidden by, all of the people and authorities. But literally from Genesis to Revelation, it says in Genesis, let the seeds be your meat. And in Revelation, it says the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. Revelation 22. So the healings are already here, brother. And the products and the tools that we have, are already here. I detest what you just said a minute ago, and that they'll administer cut, burn, poison, and drug, instead of realizing that the tools are already in the body, and the body needs to be brought back to something you and I call homeostasis, back to where it can do its own job. So that's kind of a long story to tell you that the stuff that they did to me is unbelievable. And yet I asked Father for wisdom. I said, Father, give me wisdom to get out of this nightmare. It's awful what they're doing to me. And I was sitting in the room with about 60 of these beautiful chairs, with the leather, and they've got the nurses coming in, and they're all in hazmat suits. Could you imagine this?
Yeah.
It's you don't even know who they are. You can't see who they are. And if they drop this chemical, they give you a chest port. They surgically input this chest port, and then they drop all this chemo and those terrible things into your body, which is totally toxic. And you've heard the story. They go in to get the fast growing cells, which includes your immune system and the cancer and your hair and your reproductive organs and all of these things that I described already. So they're going for targeting something that's fast growing. But what the problem is that they're not dealing with the truth. And the truth is there are products out here already that will cure and heal all of these diseases, but they're in nature and they can't be patented.
Yes.
And this is where I, find it absolutely shocking. When you say, people talk to me a lot of times, they say, well, Mr. Ellis, you're not very nice. There's lovely people in oncology. You don't talk very nicely about them. And to which I always retort, I think there's lovely people in oncology. They're trying, many of them are trying very hard. But the fact of the matter is there's lovely people at Wendy's lovely people at Walmart. There's lovely people everywhere, but they're not watching 1,600 people die. And everyone in those chairs that I was sitting with, they were turning gray and green and yellow and losing all their hair and absolutely wasting away. And this is called health care. I just want to tell your audience, beware, because what passes for health care ain't. Okay.
There's a great quote by Dr. Patrick Temple that says, when we take disease care and label it healthcare and sell it to a nation, we can't help but have a sick nation.
Absolutely.
That's where we are.
I love that, brother. I do have to say this, that, if you looked at the money trail, your listeners would be shocked. The oncologist made $3,500 every time he prescribed chemo to me. See, it's a direct payment these people are making. And to be frank, I've done so much research now in the last 6 years since this happened. It's kind of interesting. I'll tell you about that. But literally, they won't, 76% of the oncologists will not take it or give it to their loved ones.
Right.
I have a terrible story about that too. 35 years ago, I was a minister of music at a huge church in Dallas. And one of my jobs happened to be to visit the senior adults. So there's one lady in the congregation that had undergone 39 chemotherapy treatments. She was a horrible looking person. In the course of her lifetime, they had cut off her nose. They had cut off her cheek. They had cut out her eye. And they'd given her these 39 treatments. So what happened was she came to church, if she could ever do, a beautiful soul, lovely lady. Joanne was her name. She literally came with a Phantom of the Opera piece on her face and a wig and all that. Her husband had divorced her. Her daughter disowned her. She's living in a trailer all by herself. And I got to go visit her, and she's just such a beautiful lady. And I said to her, there was a man that was treating her in her trailer. And a brilliant guy. He traveled the world at the behest of kings and queens because he knew how to turn around cancer. And so this is 35 years ago now. And I heard him talking, and we got to be very good family friends. And Ralph said to me one time, he said, I've brought her back to life, but what's the quality of life that she has now? What they've done to her. He said, let me tell you one little story. The director of oncology at MD Anderson, which is a massive cancer clinic, came to me one day and he said, would you please help my wife? She has cancer. And Ralph said to him, well, of course I will, but I have one question for you. When you have the entire arsenal at MD Anderson at your control, why are you bringing your wife to me? And the director of oncology at MD Anderson said this: because you don't give chemotherapy to people you love.
Wow.
That was 35 years ago. Now, these people know what the damage is. If they drop it on the floor, it's a hazmat. They're wearing hazmat clothes. You can't see who it is that's administering this CRAP, into your chest, but they know what they're doing. See, they do follow the rules according to the medical society, but the medical society is corrupt to the core. It only has to do with making money. And Jay, when I became a business model for these people, then I knew something was wrong. It took me $400,000, and then I was terminal. And I went through most of a year of their treatment, terrifying, all those head tissue problems. And then I went at the failure of oncology. The oncologist called me up on a Friday night, and he said, we didn't get it all. And that was after a year. I said, what? He said, we didn't get it all. And you need more chemo, more radiation, a stem cell transplant, experimental treatments. Don't worry about it. I got it all set up for you. And I said, because at that point, I developed a network of people that are curing and healing all diseases, including cancer, including pancreatic cancer, which is the worst that they can't deal with. And I said, what if I don't do any of that? He said, I'll give you 6 months, as if he were God. And by the way, when people are given a death sentence here in America, they pretty much believe what they're told. Yeah. Because that guy in the white coat with the stethoscope is supposed to be the pro. And he's watched so many people die from the treatment combination. See, I was dying from the treatments, Doc. Yeah, it wasn't, sure. I wasn't dying from the cancer. I was dying from the combination of all of this horrible stuff, which reminds me to talk to you about COVID sometime later, the comorbidities and what they're doing. But importantly, I was dying from the treatments. And so what I want people to understand and your audience to understand is that there are ways to get around all of this. And you have to ask Father for wisdom, because
let's talk about that, Marcus. So you get this from the doctor. I'll give you 6 months to live. It's kind of a horrible playing God kind of.
It's a death sentence. And,
so where did you change gears then at this point? And what were the steps towards our natural treatment?
I have to tell you, this is so funny. I have a huge library. I'm a third generation teacher. So they had to move my bed to the first floor library because I couldn't even climb stairs. And you're talking to a guy that was a gymnast kind of a guy and a cheerleader and a marching band president and all that kind of stuff. I literally couldn't walk a flight of stairs. I was hooked on morphine. The pain was so bad. I had no way to sleep. I mean, it was just awful. But there are a couple of books, and I have a huge section on naturopathic, stuff. It was like, okay, they're sitting over there. I didn't read them. All these docs that are, talking about, herbs and, beautiful supplements and all this. I was like, yeah. I'll get to that some other year. But we've been collecting books forever. Anyway, one of the books on this shelf was called "What in the Cell is Going On?"
Nice.
And I thought that was darling. So I actually read it. It's by a nutritional biochemist in Florida. And I read it and I said, hey, I called him up. Can I talk to you? I'm a terminal cancer patient. And he went, nope, I don't do terminal cancer patients. But because we just struck it off a good relationship grew, and I did go down to Florida, he used state-of-the-art equipment that's 40 years ahead of the AMA. That's non-toxic, non-invasive. And he gave me a 35-page report and he said, here's your protocol, go for it. And I came back to Nashville, which is where I am currently living. And literally, I never saw the guy again. And I went 6 months and did all the things prescribed. And there were about, 16 to 20 different things that we did. And there's very, very incredible combination of stuff. But literally, I went through that 6 months, and at that end of 6 months, oncology called me back and they said, we want to do a follow-up. And I said, okay. And the young lady said, what date do you want? And I said, how about March 17th? And she said, oh, no problem. So she gave me that date. And, the reason that was cool was because that was the precise date of my supposed death. It had been September 17th. Now it's March 17th. So I went in, they did their Chem 24 profiles, their blood work, the lab assessments and everything. And they found, guess what? No cancer. Wow. Then the light bulb went off. The fireworks started happening because I said, I have no cancer. And nobody's asking me what I did. I hope that one would think if you have, the last time you saw them, you were terminal, you came in at stage 4, you exited terminal, you come back with no cancer. I would have hoped that someone there would have said, what in the HE double hockey sticks did you do?
Right.
No one even asked. And before I left, I just walked around the halls trying to find the oncologist. And I found him, and he was in the hall with his little clipboard. And I said, hey, do you remember what you said to me 6 months ago? And I was in tears, Jay. And I'm not the big hard guy that a lot of people are. I literally was in tears. I said, do you remember what you said to me? He said, no. I said, well, you told me I would be dead today. And he looked me up and down in the most harsh glare. And he said to me, well, you look all right to me. And I guess we all make mistakes. And that was it. That's all I got out of oncology for my horrible journey. And there is no question they did not contribute to my return to health. They can take no responsibility for it because they said I was doomed. So I just want you to know, first of all, don't believe a report from the American Medical Association. Don't believe it. You have other tools at your available. And literally, I just have to say this. So many of these things, Jay, are so upside down. They've taken the words that are scriptural terms and reutilize them and turn them upside down, like the word remission. It's a beautiful word from scripture, and it actually come out of one of the esoteric books called Enoch, chapter 6. And literally, the word is remission means, in our world, it means forgiveness. Okay. In the world of the oncologist, remission merely means it's coming back and it's gone for a season. Okay. They don't give you the idea that you're cured and that you're healed. And we're going to give you a protocol that will keep it from coming back. So every time I go into these conventions and these, places that I speak, people say, "Oh, you're in remission." I say, "Oh, no, I'm not." And they look at me like I've got 3 heads. And I say, no, it has nothing to do with remission. That word was stolen from the scriptures, the forgiveness of sins, remission of sins. And they use it now in their world to tell you that you're not done. You're never going to be done. You're going to be back. And I detest the entire system that's predicated on treatments, not curing. And I can tell your audience that there are cures for all these diseases. Autism is reversible. AIDS is reversible. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Lyme, all of these diseases, if I didn't mention yours, diabetes, arthritis, all these things are reversible, but they sure as heck are not coming out of the medical system with its emphasis on allopathic drugs. It's not going to happen. It never has. It never will. And you follow the money trail, as I said a few minutes ago, and you'll find very disappointedly that all of the CEOs are in interlocking boards of directorates with the governmental watch groups. They're even on the watch groups, and they're supposed to be watching pharma. This is the chickens being guarded by the fox. It's nothing to do with, health care. So I want your listeners to realize we've gotten to the state, Jay, that every institution in America is corrupt beyond words. All of our institutions are corrupt. So when we grew up, and I'm quite a bit older than you, but when we grew up, all of the people in my world knew that they could trust the doctor. They could trust the legal system. I mean, Perry Mason, it worked, an hour later, they got the guy. It's not that way today. The legal system is corrupt. The government is corrupt. Everything around you, and healthcare is certainly corrupt. And, they have these huge buildings. I mean, I'm just shocked. I drive by these buildings and they're, 8, 10, 12, 15 stories of a building, and the parking lots, you can't see any empty spots. They're monster parking lots, and the American people are just sucked up to go to them and get treatments. So I would advise people that are listening to us talking today to look to the word of Elohim, the word of God, as you call him. He's literally got answers for everyone, but you have to dig a little bit into the scriptures and think, okay, Father, do you have wisdom? Please give me wisdom, because I know that there are ways out. And there are other people that know there's ways out. And chiropractic is a wonderful avenue to have done as part of the journey out.
That's great. Well, I love where you're going in the what I'm finding this based on is faith. You're saying dig into the word and find faith, because everything in the oncology, allopathic world is fear driven.
Oh, brother.
You're supposed to heal in fear instead of faith.
It doesn't happen. That's why they boast of these horrible numbers, 1,600 people a day. We can't get to the bottom. Listen to, Nixon, you're so young, you probably don't even remember. President Nixon in 1971, he literally started the war on cancer. Okay, if you do the math, are you a fast math guy?
Let's give it a shot.
1971 to 2022. That's 50 years.
Yeah.
Okay. They've had 50 years to find the cures for cancer. Do you think they're going to find them soon when somebody has to race for the cure? And you look at these horrible pictures from St. Jude, the little children, they got these people, these little babies with no hair, and they're just awful. And they're giving them all kinds of things that are not healing, not curing, and they're going through all these things that will damage them for life. But I always look at this from the point of view of they have hijacked so many of the words, like conventional medicine. I'm not going to be the first one to tell you this. You know this already. Literally, the American Medical Association is the alternative. They are 125 years old. They destroyed over 2,000 naturopathic colleges in America in the early 1900s under the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Rothschild, all of that group. They destroyed all of these colleges in America in favor of what? Allopathic medicine, which they owned all the drug companies.
Right. That's, folks, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, what? That doesn't make any sense. Do your history. That is the Rockefellers. And that when they were getting towards retirement, they said, okay, what's our next business we're going to invest in? It was allopathic medicine and creating it that you could start owning. They have to tweak it from nature. They can't copyright or trademark something that's natural. So then became all this allopathic medicine that they could then.
And what they do is they tweak it, as you said, but they just change something. But it's what is already in nature. In order to get that patent, they had to do something that wasn't natural. And remember this, herbs, the supplements that we have, all kinds of things are already ready to go. They're already ready to go. And they've been around for thousands of years, people. Don't fool yourself into thinking that the American Medical Association is conventional. They're not conventional. They're nothing. That whole institution has only been around 125 years, and they use products and protocols, procedures that produce disease. I don't know if you know iatrogenic, some of these nosocomial infections that you get are hospital induced. The iatrogenic diseases that are caused by doctor mistakes are massive. You cannot get away from the fact that the hospital itself, you don't want to go into a hospital if you can avoid it, because there are so many diseases. These things called MRSA. Of course, they're reversible. They don't know how to reverse MRSA, but I do. And so the point is that the people are going into these hospitals and getting diseases. They're having, problems with the hospital staff, strep, this stuff is, that's a play on words. But the fact is, these guys are not conventional. And I would like to get your listeners to understand that the things that you do and that I do are the conventional. They've been around for thousands of years. You look at the Eastern cultures, the Chinese, the Indians, they're not buffaloed by Western medicine. Western medicine is the new kid. They don't know anything. They haven't been around. Oh, but they're going to tell you a guy like me, he's a charlatan. He's a snake oil salesman. Well, that's BS, bro. And I'm going to tell you, I'm living proof the cures for terminal cancer are already here.
Right.
I'm not making this up. This is my story. Don't talk to me about that. I can't talk about cure or heal. I can. Because that's what I need to do for everyone around me. And I have people that are terminal, critical, and chronically ill that talk to me every day. And I help them and kind of coach them and show them who to talk to, which doctors to go talk to, which clinics to go see. What are the protocols? What are these products? I know what works, and I help people to find them.
That's great. Well, when people take this course and go into more of the natural stuff than the fear-driven oncology stuff, what are the financial options on that, the cost on that versus getting sucked into the system?
I love your question. And I'll preface it by saying, I think you're addressing something very important. If you have 1 ounce of fear that's put into you by someone in that medical profession, get the HE double hockey sticks away, because that's not what they're there for. They're not to put fear into you. They're not to tell you, I've watched this before, so I have several thousand people I've seen die from this. Pancreatic cancer is irreversible. They'll put that stuff right into your head. And believe me, people die on cue. They die on remember that church I told you where that beautiful soul was that had the facial mask? And oh my gosh, There's another woman that was actually the director of the daycare, huge daycares that we had at the same church. She was afflicted with cancer. She did exactly what they told her to do, and she was dead exactly on cue 6 months later. Okay. And here's this beautiful woman that has the answers, and they don't want to know. Nobody wants to know. But your question is very well taken. And I want your listeners to know fear is not in this equation. Fear should never enter the equation. You should trust. It says in the scriptures, trust in Yahweh is his name. You call him in your version, probably trust in the Lord. But literally, you put your trust in the Creator. And I've had too many pastors say, trust your doctor. Trust your doctor. He's doing the best he can for you. And I'm going to say, no. You trust the living Elohim. You trust the Creator, and you start looking for ways to think outside the box. So here's the next thing. I actually deal in something that's called viatical settlements. And I have to warm you into that subject because the very day that I was diagnosed at Vanderbilt with stage 4 cancer, that very month, my name hangs on a wall plaque in Cleveland at the corporate headquarters of the insurance company that I worked for. I was the #1 man that month selling, don't die laughing, Jay, selling cancer policies.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So I was doing so well, and I had one of our policies. And so when I went through conventional horrors with all these collateral damages, they literally paid me. My company paid me because I had one of the policies. So I went through that. And after the failure of oncology, when they told me that I had 6 months to live and that we didn't get it all and you need more, and I was already so sick, I said, no, I can't do this. At that point, I went naturopathically. My own company denied all benefits to me. It wouldn't pay for my truck, my gas, my hotels. I mean, we're talking, that's nothing. Why wouldn't they pay something? My own company wouldn't pay me anything. So as a man of integrity, I literally had to quit the company because I couldn't sell one more policy to one more person when I realized I was shoving them into the arms of the AMA that 24/7 runs the pink ribbon propaganda mirage. Okay. And so I realized they're not interested in helping families. They're not going to cure. And so at that point, I started really developing this whole thing about these clinics and the network that I have, and also the viatical settlements. The word viatical is a Latin word, which actually you see via, that's the word way, via dolorosa, via dolorosa. You heard the way, via or viatical. It literally means provisions along the way. On the old Roman roads, the Roman soldiers carried their own provisions. So they were called viaticals. So what I do today is I literally provide resources for people that are terminal, critical, and chronically ill by buying, this is going to be tough to hear at first, by buying their life insurance policies. Okay. I buy their life insurance policies now while they're still alive and give them the funds tax exempt to go wherever they want to go with whatever treatment programs they want. And this is so cool because so many of the clinics have a financial resources tab on the top now. And they tell people you can go to Marcus. And what happens is I have ranks of investors behind me. And these investors are looking for policies. Over half of America has life insurance policies. And what usually happens, Jay, when people get into cancer with the fear mongering that goes on, most of the time, this is going to shock you, they drop their life insurance policies. If they have 2 or 3, they'll drop them because they know I can't pay for this. They think in their head they can't pay for it. No one realizes that in 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Grigsby v. Russell that all life insurance is chattel. It's a fancy word for it's your personal possession. If you bought it, you can sell it. So everyone can sell their life insurance policies now while they're still alive, which is kind of fundamentally wild for most people to think about. But I literally know in the 30s, the 20s and 30s, everyone knew they could sell their policies because there were men wearing sandwich boards walking up and down the streets in the big cities saying, I'll buy your life policies, I'll buy your life. And everybody thought it was great. They knew it. Everybody knew it when that ruling came out in 1911. At that point, then it went kind of on a hiatus until it came back in the 80s with the AIDS crisis. And there were gay men that were all over desperate for AZT, which was outrageously expensive, and they needed money. So what happens, there were wolves on the streets that would buy the gay guys' life policies. Instead, like a $500,000 policy, they might give them $50,000. And so those people would get their couple of treatments, but literally those wolves were out there buying policies, and it developed in the older accountants and older attorneys' minds that viatical, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is, but I don't like them, and they're taking advantage of people and blah, blah, blah. Today, fast forward to today, it's absolutely well governed. And there are many people that are doing, the same thing that is correct, and that is giving out of a $500,000 life insurance policy. Many is the time I've given $400,000, $425,000 to the family, tax exempt.
Nice.
And then said, okay, where are you living? Okay, there's, I have 8 guys in North Carolina or in Florida or in Texas or in Tijuana, Mexico, or in, Spain, Malaga, Spain, or in Germany, or, wherever. And I just happen to know so many of the doctors now. So what I do is I tell people, I'll work with the investors behind me. This is a policy that you will no longer own. So it's a settlement. That means you're settled out. It's not a loan. You never have to repay it. You can use it for whatever you want. Like a big stressor for most American folks is the mortgage.
Yeah.
You can pay off the mortgage. Okay. You could still give 50 to this child and 90 to that child. You could still do whatever you want to. But the fact is that you're going to have, what it takes to beat the disease. Naturopathic remedies have been systematically excluded from healthcare insurance.
That's what's so unethical.
They're in it up to their eyeballs to keep the American public away from the cures. They will not take the naturopathic things like the chiropractic. They will not give us any funds for these supplements. And literally, you go into most of these cancer clinics that are integrative, or, there's several words for them that they're using now, but you're going to go to people that are going to use herbs and do IVs, all kinds of things. Well, you walk in the door at $39,000, $40,000.
Yeah.
Many people look at this, the red-blooded American man will look at this alternative, which is another lie word. They'll look at that alternative site and say, how am I going to pay for this? I can't pay for this. My insurance won't pay for it. I have the answer. Your life insurance will pay for it. And cool enough, I got a client that's got $1 million policy. I was talking to them yesterday. Literally, I'll give them a large amount of this policy and they will go take it, and the investors will continue to pay those premiums until they die.
Right.
Okay. But the people can use it for whatever they want. And that's the miracle. And I will tell you, life insurance companies don't really like me very well either. Because you're going to die. 90% of the policies in America are not cashed in. Did you know that? Wow. That's why the biggest buildings in America are the life insurance companies, the banks, and the hospitals.
Yeah.
Because they're
surprised me if somebody passes away and their kids or whatever doesn't know where the insurance policy is. I'm sure the vast majority get lost. You bet.
And they can't find the beneficiaries because they moved, they got married, they changed their name. Nobody can find them. If you knew that over 90% of the policies are never cashed in, you'd think twice about it. But I just want to tell you, if a man or a woman is going through this and then 5 years later, they're known to be cancer-free in 5 years. After they're cancer-free for 5 years, I can get them another life insurance policy everywhere. So that's not even a problem. So what I want people to understand is this is not the end of your nest egg. This is going to get the man or the woman healthy and bring them to be able to use some of those funds for investments, bringing money in. And 5 years from now, I'll get them another policy. That's not even a problem.
That's brilliant. That's a really brilliant way of using it. Sometimes people get funny about life insurance policy and the money. And I want to address two really important things that you pointed out there. Well, they are underlying there. Before cancer starts, some of the most harmful words I ever hear is, if my insurance doesn't cover it, I can't afford it. Why did we give the power of our health, wellness, and longevity to a third-party company? We are the number one most valuable asset, and we are a gift of God that we're living in this little universe, this little micro universe here. We've got to invest in this asset.
Amen.
Your life insurance like that sounds very ethical to you. Some people might be like, wait, that doesn't make sense to me. I see some really cool policies out there where insurance companies will take your life insurance policy now and loan against it to the banks, because there are two things we got to do. We're all gonna die. We all got to pay taxes, right? So if they know we're gonna die, other than land, your life insurance policy is the next best investment they can make. So that's a really wise company to say, well, we'll buy your life insurance at a pretty decent value so you can invest in your health to buy more years, and you can get another policy later after you beat this thing.
And what man do you know that is the breadwinner for his family that doesn't realize, oh, I've got something in my kitchen drawer that's an asset that I can use to beat cancer, and we'll turn around and buy another in 5 years from now. See, what they do is they got all this fear mongering. Fear comes in every direction. And the wife says, I'm just afraid he's going to die. Yes, he's going to die if you keep him in the medical system, because you're not going to pay for naturopathic cures because you don't know anything. And you're just expecting everybody just to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you something, brother. This is all a custom life journey. Every person, I about 16 things that I did. Every single person has to have their own pieces of the puzzle. This is a beautiful jigsaw puzzle with 1,000 pieces. Have you ever done one of those? Everybody has their own jigsaw puzzle, and they get to put those pieces in wherever they fit. Your pieces, bro, are not going to look like mine. So there's some things that I'll tell you, obviously, a bottom line every single time. Diet is out of control in America. Nutrition is totally wrong. These people are making so much money on keeping products on the shelves. If you read these things, sodium nitrite in our meats, they're putting formaldehyde in you. Oh, do I need to be preserved? No, that's so they can sell it longer. Why are they putting glyphosate on everything? Oh, why are they putting all these chemicals on everything? It's because it looks better on the shelf at the grocery store. So all the foods have contamination. You have to look at the organics, and even those you have to be suspect. But you literally go in and you think about all the stuff that they're putting in. I asked the girl at the grocery store, and I'm not going to name it. I asked her the other day, the manager, I said, why is sugar in everything? I held up a can of spaghetti sauce, I held up stuff that, you're going, why? High fructose corn syrup. Why is sugar in all of this? She said, because that's what y'all like. Y'all don't like. We all don't like. You need to get products that don't have sugar in them, because you're killing the American people. And I'm not kidding. Grocery stores, you can only, basically march around the outside. Everything in the middle of the aisles. My gosh, anything that's processed, prepackaged, all these things, they put in the preservatives into those products. You really have to know that's not the way our forefathers did. And about 50 years ago, when I was a little boy, nobody had cancer. I remember one woman had cancer down the block, and that's all. Nobody had cancer. And the reason it's so prevalent is because the stuff that they're putting in our diets, and the stuff that they're spraying down on us, and the stuff that's in our personal care products. I mean, you got to look at antiperspirant. What's anti stand for? It's Latin for against. Okay. Anti means against perspiration. So you put this under your arm, underarm deodorant and antiperspirant. You're closing off your pores. What's the closest part of my body to the pores? And this closing off of my underarm, it's called breast. Why do we have breast cancer at unbelievable levels? Because the toxins can't get out of her body, because you've just sealed off the way out. This is not rocket science. Why do they put, fluoride in our toothpaste and in our water supplies? I've driven through these little towns and they say proudly fluoridating our water supply. I'm like, what a bunch of idiots. Israel canned fluoride decades ago. You don't use fluoride in your toothpaste, but the ADA will tell you, you need to have fluoride in your toothpaste. I mean, it's just insanity. You have to do your own homework.
What would you like to do to sum up for today for our listeners? Like, what are our hot bullet points?
I want people to know that they can pray and ask our Heavenly Father, the creator of the universe, for the way out. The ways out are here. They need to tune out of American mainstream media. 75% of media's income comes from pharmaceuticals. They're just the shills. ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, all these, MSNBC, they're just the shills for the corporate, huge pharma companies. You'll never hear, I'm going to give you a little thing. I'd pay you $1 million if you ever heard that the cures for all of our diseases are already here. They ain't doing this interview on those stations.
Right.
So you have to ask for wisdom. You have to stop listening to the wrong sources. You have to listen to the right sources, like Dr. J. You have to also understand that the finances are already here. They're created. Most of the people in America have a life policy. I can buy them. It isn't a snake oil salesman. It isn't anything weird. It's been done for over 100 years. It's just that the media is so shortchanging us on truth and information. And I have to tell you this, I'm a teacher. I come from a family of teachers. And I just want you to know, education is another corrupt system. They're not teaching our children what really matters, not teaching the cures, not teaching about caring for our body, not teaching about this as a one unit that's all integrated together. They're going to teach them sex ed, which your grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents figured out all on their own without the help of the NEA.
Right.
Somehow we all figured it out. So I just want you to know, you have to beware. Education's corrupt, and what you have to do is educate yourself. You really have to use your brain. It's called thinking outside the box, and it's like a red pill. If you saw that movie, and the Red Pill Expo is something that I speak at and attend, and all these conferences. The truth is, the cures for cancer are here. The cures for your diseases are already here. And in conjunction with Dr. J and the products and the protocols that you do, I would be glad to sit in the background, provide you financial resources so that you can get healed. And this is the truth. And I'm not a snake oil salesman.
Great. Fantastic.
Okay, deal?
Marcus, well, great. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. J. This has been a joy to talk with you.